Hello. Thank you for that question. Mike, I'll get you later. In the work that we were doing in 1996, the question really wasn't as much about employment in those days. It was much more about making a case to the Department of Trade and Industry to actually take the creative sector seriously and understand it as not only a nice to have and a drain on the fiscus, but to see it really as a potential income generator, export earner, and so on. And so really the point of looking at the 4 cases that we did at the time, which was music, publishing, film and craft, was to really say to what extent are these parts of what we call culture and the cultural sector, can we see them in the same way that we really understand industry? And it was really the first attempt to understand in South Africa what are the cultural industries. In those days we didn't have the words creative industries or creative economy, we were still at cultural industry. So we're very much around the cultural types of work around music and so on. And what we identified is that really those industries wouldn't exist without the artists. That it was the artists at the heart of that industry. Without the musician, there is no live music. Without the designer and the person who comes and conceives the idea of craft, there is no craft sector. And what we noticed is that not only do these sectors actually have a lot of people in them, and I think we overplayed how many we had at the time, but they really do create income generating opportunities for people who are poor, for people who are potentially have not managed to reach into, at that time, tertiary education levels, had not been trained in any particular way, but had entered in because of their talent. And it was a way to say people are able to make a living out of their talent. And really without overplaying that, I think the problems in South Africa at the moment around employment are less to do with culture and creative industries or the lack of implementation of those policies, and much more to do with where we are as a country generally, which is far too complicated to go into now. But I think the Mzansi Golden Economy, which is the new strategy of the South African government, is again looking at the objectives of our national government, which is about employment. We have a problem with jobs. We have a real problem. Most people in our country are not employed. And it's an attempt to say, well, actually, why don't we look at this creative economy? And let's look at it seriously and to say, to what extent can we say there are income opportunities here that people can generate income and actually survive on their talent? And I think it's as simple as that. And I think one of the biggest problems we have is that in our sector, because government puts so little money into it in the developing countries, and in Africa in particular, and I think we put in an amazing amount of money compared to our neighbours, the problem is that we still do not understand how to generate the kind of momentum that we need for growth. And we land up having to hook our agenda onto other agendas. And that's really what it's about. It's an instrumental approach to saying, look at how we can maybe get more money from the fiscus to support the sector by using the language of jobs and employment and turnover.
Okay, great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each one a particular set of questions that they can answer. And I know that people would like to make comments on something just now before. Please just maybe hold on to those ideas, because I'd like you to share those in the second round, where I'll give you each a chance to basically respond. Yeah? Just maybe the second part of the question, from your experience of training people as cultural entrepreneurs and the like, to what extent is the creative industry or the creative economy sector, while it is primarily geared towards middle class people, people who are educated, people with resources, rather than the underclass?
I think, again, in all the training programs that we've been running, both in South Africa and on the rest of the continent, such as the ones we did in Ethiopia as part of the National Network Project, getting people to be able to value their own cultural sector it was the DRC and Nigeria at the time, and then the training we've subsequently done, like in Kenya, around getting people to understand what our previous speaker spoke about as the administration of cultural programs, such as being able to manage NGO arts programs, programs around, sort of initiatives around community-based cultural programs. Now, they are all geared at different levels, there's no doubt. And I think one of the things that, for me, was so important in South Africa is the people we've been able to train who didn't land up finishing school, didn't end up getting into university education, because they participated in cultural entrepreneurship training, were able then, because of that, to get into university, which is what people really wanted to do, and were able to bypass some of the formal learning that they had been excluded from because of apartheid and the systems of exclusion. So I think on the one hand, yes, it is a gear towards people who are multi-skilled, multitask, intellectual, able to manage masses of information. At the same time, craft-based training and so on is really addressing poor rural women, and who are able then, because of their training, to actually make a difference in the lives of their community.